What's going on? Today's topic is, can my adoptive child become a U.S. citizen? Friends, welcome to Green Card Guys TV. I'm your host, John Ting, hoping you solve your immigration problem and maybe even prevent it from happening in the first place. Welcome to the channel. Let's see what's up. What's up? Good morning. If you're new to our channel, we usually like to talk about specific topics to begin, and typically I like to bring up things that it could be a problem for some people, or it has been a problem. To give you a little bit context of why I'm talking about adoptive um, children, typically when we get calls about this to help people out, it's that they're about to age out. Okay, they're about to um, be aging out in the sense that they can't become a U.S. citizen anymore. So I'm going to bring up some information on the USCIS website. Okay, this is Child Citizenship Act of 2000. It's a long time ago. And unfortunately, or the one good thing is that Congress was trying to do was to help people become a U.S. citizen, make it less painful. But unfortunately, it did not solve the problem for some folks, okay? It did not. I believe this is the last law in terms of through Congress that was passed. And by the way, if you're new to our channel, you don't know this, but we do offer free 15 minutes preliminary discussion. And happy to point you in the right direction. There is no obligation to hire our team. Of course, it'd be our pleasure to assist you, but we understand that, maybe you have a lawyer now that's just not responding to you. Now, look, it's not like if you talk to them, if you called the office yesterday, look, give them a chance. Give them a chance to respond to you. But if it's sometimes you don't get a response back in like a month, make sure you check your emails by any chance. Maybe they emailed you, maybe they did call you, but definitely there are a lot of people that unfortunately have that situation. And we answer the phone. We reply to emails. We actually try our best to respond in 24 hours. My team probably hates me for that, but we really try our best. I do see some comments, so thank you so much. You're welcome to comment a question or just your experience, and I'll definitely share with the audience soon. So here are two main things you need, or three main things you need to know about adopting a child. I'm not going to go into the detail about like what it looks like in that particular country. That's very detailed, but related to USCIS. Okay, the first thing is adoption in that country or even in the US has to have happened before, or the first adoption process has to have happened before 16 years old. Okay, 16 years old. So somehow I've heard about people who that intended child, right, to be adopted came in the United States with a visitor visa. That's not the proper way. It may be possible, but when you do that, then people forget to do the next step, and that's the formal adoption process. Which, if for some reason the child did come in the U.S. with a visitor visa, you still can go to the state, your particular state where you live, for adoption, but that has to have been before 16 years old. Okay, so but for most people, they do the adoption in that country of the child. Okay, so in that scenario, that's okay before 16. The second main issue people forget is that aging out. When does age out situation happen? Right? Let's say you did step number one. Okay, the big step number one, to do the adoption. But when do you need to make sure you file this application to make sure that your child that you adopted is basically an automatic citizen? Okay, so that's why we call it child being able to automatically acquire citizenship after not just birth, but after adoption. Okay, and that is 18 years old. So we have some folks, it's similar to really any kind of case that people have, and there's a certain deadline That's why we call people. We do the courtesy to call people, we do the courtesy to email people. And I hate to say, sometimes like crickets, we feel bad for people. Like, if you don't, whether you hire our team or someone else, we don't mind. It's our pleasure to assist you. But as a courtesy, even if someone didn't sign up with us, we try our best to remember to certain things like this. Obviously, if it's like 5 years later, where a child's going to be turn 18 in 5 years from now, we're not going to have that follow up. But if it's like 17, then we do have a system where we're like, okay, we need to contact this person. So, like I mentioned the past couple of days, you really need to set a calendar reminder, okay, of things when to take the next action. Now, get it. If you never spoke with a lawyer on when to know these dates, then sure, you wouldn't know when to put a calendar. So that's really the thing before that, is you need to talk to a lawyer. And being on the live show like this might be just the first thing, but you really need to have like a one-on-one consultation, just so you make sure you know the process. And then at that point, for sure, there's no excuses. You need to put on your calendar. Again, whether you hire a law firm or not, you just have to put on your calendar so you don't forget. Because I just really feel bad for people that these children who are adopted, some people just can't become a citizen automatically. They have to go through a different way. So let me see if I can share my screen. And this is what I'll share on YouTube and Facebook. You can see this is related to the Child Citizenship Act of 2000. Congress thought that they covered everyone in the past, but unfortunately, it shows here that according to INA 320, a child born outside of the United States automatically becomes a U.S. citizen when all the following conditions have been met on or after February 27, 2001. So that's where I guess you could say there was a cutoff date, because people that didn't get those conditions completed before February 27, 2001, it didn't help those people. There's a bunch of people I know from that were born. It's just very unfortunate. The law should have changed to help those folks. So, anyways, I do see some questions. I'll get to that very soon. There are, of course, other requirements here on the USCIS website. It's definitely a concern that you should know. But those are the two main ones. And then the other one is people that ask the common question about adoption is, hey, if I've been adopted by someone else and it all worked out for me and I got my legal status and you had a green card and then I become a citizen, can I turn around and petition or sponsor my biological parent or parents? No, unfortunately. It does not include that. It basically cuts it off. So for those conservative folks that did not know, there actually is in the law that it cuts it off. But of course, conservatives always think, oh, yeah, there's always what they call chain migration. Yeah, there's a cutoff. So unfortunately, well, I guess you could say, unfortunately for the adoptive child, you can't turn around to sponsor your parents. So parents, if you are in a situation, biological parents, if you didn't know that, this is good for you to know. Like, hopefully you don't assume that your child that's about to be adopted, maybe by your own sibling, so their uncle or aunt, or even your own parents, a grandparent, that your child can't turn around and sponsor you. So that's very important for you to know. Let's see. Let me see if I can answer some questions. Thank you so much. By the way, if you're new to the channel, we do offer some free guides on our website, greencardguides.com. And let's check it out here. You can see it on our Facebook and YouTube. We have guides. You can go to our website, scroll all the way down, click. One of the most popular one these days is about mandamus, because a lot of y'all have been waiting a long time for your case to be resolved, completed. Some people have been talking about waiting. We're not talking about, but like have waited at least a year abroad, and you already had an interview, or let's say you had the interview for asylum or even for adjustment of status, and it's been more than a year. That's a long time. And unfortunately, the government is just slow and not organized, not efficient. They're just not set up for it. Think about all the complaints that people had about the U.S. Post Office. look, it doesn't matter what your legal status is. I bet no one likes going to the post office. In fact, we have pre-printed labels to save us time if we have to go there, and we just drop off, right? No one likes it. It's similar sentiment for USCIS. They even sent a memo saying, hey, if you're going to mail us a package, can you not use staples? Don't put the prongs on the top. Don't like enclose it. Don't put a rubber band around it because those little things make us feel better as at least a private attorney. So make sure nothing gets lost. But they don't want any of that because they have problems. It takes them time to remove all those binding mechanisms and because they have to go through a scanner. So just that very basic thing, they can't handle that. So with that in mind, that's why you may need to consider filing a lawsuit. All right. Anyway, I do see some questions about Suresh. If you're still on, you want to talk about EB3. You're from Nepal. Okay. So you're wondering about EB3. Suresh has a question about that. I can cover that more in a separate recording show, but I'll give you the high level detail here is that number one, you have to, of course, apply for a job in America. And I recommend you let the HR people know that you are a foreign national. And if you're outside the US, you should let them know that. But, sometimes people say, well, I have a friend who has a company. Can they sponsor me? For EB3, there's three main categories. It doesn't require a degree. You could be what we consider professional or a skilled worker. So think of skilled worker meaning you that job needs some kind of certification. Or number three, unskilled worker. Okay, so typically doesn't need any kind of extra certification. Give you an example like unskilled worker. I hate to put labels to certain occupations, but think of it like a restaurant worker, a cook, not a chef, because chef you would need some kind of certification, for example, or that can even be considered depending on the level of the chef. Could be different type of recall like requirement in that sense. So it just depends. Even this particular job title, there's different levels of it because of the job requirement, the job duties. So that's part of our team, what we look at to make sure, because if I say something out, here live, you're thinking, oh yeah, let's do it that way. On the employer side. So let's say you got your buddy, right? Your buddy has to still pay you when you get into the US, right? They don't have to prepay you in that sense. Thank goodness for the employers, but the employers need to know that there's something called prevailing wage. Think of it like a salary, essentially. So I don't want to say it's like a minimum wage, but there is a minimum that employers need to pay you. So, and it depends on essentially cost of living adjustment, COLA. Like if someone is getting paid, let's say a truck driver, that would be like an EB3. Whatever you get paid as a truck driver in New York would be higher than you get paid in Florida or Texas, because Florida, Texas have a lower cost of living. Or really any job, right? Because the East Coast and West Coast have a higher cost of living. So that's really usually one of the main concerns on employer side. There's a lot more I can go in detail about EB3, but hopefully that kind of give you one other thing to know is that there's several steps involved with EB3. Some people think it's like only 2 steps. There's at least like 5, unfortunately. And typically, so this is not national interest waiver. This is not EB1, where those can be faster. That could skip the labor certification process. The labor certification process is kind of like in the middle in a sense, but unfortunately, that takes like 8 to 10 months on average. It's probably one of the most annoying things about the EB3 process. But you guys need to know about this. That's why I like to share up front, and thank you, Suresh, for asking. But when you're going through the first step 1, prevailing wage, we call it the Form 9089. Step 2, recruitment, where the employers have to do the job posting, let's say like in a newspaper, for example, or on the internet. And I know that might sound strange because some employers are like, we have some clients at university as well, and they're like, well, we already have the employee. You're helping with that person, but there's a lot more to it. So you still have to follow the immigration guidelines, Department of Labor, and USCIS, because they'll want to know that information. And then after your recruitment 30-day period is a 30-day cooling off period, in the sense that the government wants to make sure you're reviewing those applicants when you did that job posting. It does not mean that you have to literally go through all those applicants, but you have to have minimum qualifications, which that's another tip for HR and employers, entrepreneurs, your startup. If you don't have HR department, you need to know about that. Like, you have a preference. Like, I think job postings tend to have, or job descriptions tend to have their preferred qualification, which is completely fine. But for immigration purposes, we have to have something lower in that sense, like your minimum qualifications. Okay. And it can't just be like whatever the hell you want it to be. Let's say like a truck driver, again, not to like make any judgment calls, but I think you can assume that truck drivers, to do that job, you don't need a college degree. So you can't just say, hey, buddy, like you're helping sponsor your buddy. You can't put a higher qualification for like a college degree for a truck driver. So it's based on what is common in the industry. Okay, so hopefully that helps. I mean, then after all that, then you file a labor certification. It takes 8 to 10 months on average, and that's why you can also get the priority date. Then after that, you can file a petition, I-140, which now recently there's a premium processing, so that's great. But then after that is the 485, and you can only file the 485 if you're here in the U.S. with current non-immigrant status, meaning temporary work visa. So most people in this situation might have like H-1B or any other non-immigrant visa, like J-1, for example. But Suresh, since you say you're from Nepal, I'm assuming you're literally physically outside the United States. So you don't file the 485, then you would go through consular processing, which the visa interview would be at your respective consular embassy. Woo! So that was a long. I tried to make that as short as possible. I'm going to record that in a separate video, so those folks that are interested in that, you can take a look at that. Hopefully I have that ready for next week, especially since H-1B season is coming up. So if you're HR or an employer or startup, H-1B season starts March, basically the first week of March. Okay. Back to adoption. I see that I have some more comments. Thank you so much. I see a question about, does adoption have the same restrictions as special immigrant visa, juvenile? I think you mean like maybe the legal requirements. I appreciate the question, but it's pretty broad. So, and there's of course various different types of restrictions. So let me know. If you're considering that process, you're welcome to give us a call and we can walk you through it. Okay. But our law firm does not assist with like the international agency. We don't have any of those kind of connections or anything like that. We don't even honestly have a list of that, but we have a lot of requests about it. It just gets a little, I don't want to say like conflict of interest, but like if something goes bad with the agency, honestly, we don't want to be blamed with it because, of course, as you can imagine, if you research this, it's not cheap, right? These agencies, they do cost a pretty penny. Makan, what's going on? You said, can I apply for TPS from a country you're not from but resided there before? No, you have to be a national of that country. But just to make sure, pretty sure that's what it says, but let me make sure. Eligibility requirements, like that. I like to show it. Oh, okay, good. Well, then you have to go into detail. That is interesting. Okay, I didn't even know that myself. Okay, Makan, how long have you been living in that country, though? That thing, I will have to check that out. That's good to know. I'm glad. See, this is why I'm glad I check. Okay, I'm on the, for those folks that are not on, I'm gonna share my screen now. I just opened up the TPS page on the USCIS website. I'm scroll up so you know it's a government source. Okay. That's great, Makan. Which TPS country are you looking at? Okay, you didn't say it there. Because here, the very first thing it says, you must be a national of a country designated for TPS or a person without nationality who last habitually resided in the designated country. So, what I understand from that is that I think this is where people call it like you don't have any, like you literally don't have any nationality. Like obviously you're born in a specific country, but they didn't issue you any kind of legal documentation that you're a national or a citizen of that country. So if that's your situation, okay, Cameroon. Yeah. So I think even though, let's say you are a national of Cameroon, or I mean a different country, like you have legal documentation, but you lived in Cameroon, for example, which is a TPS designated country. I don't think from the phrasing of this like that would work. I think what people call it, like if you have no state. I think that's what people call it. But that's a great question. Thanks for that, prompted me to check it out. But that's a good question. Even so, all right, Cameroon. I'm gonna click on Cameroon. Registration period. Okay, great. The window period is still open. Okay, so don't wait on it. Makan, if you ended up being eligible for this because you resided there without any other nationality, among other requirements, of course, it's 2023 right now in January. We're almost in February. Don't wait to apply if you're in this situation. Same thing with Haiti. Registration is still open. They actually just extended it to 2024. Even though they extended it, don't wait on it. I don't know why people would wait, because applying for TPS allows you to get a work permit, and eventually you can apply for advanced parole to travel outside the U.S. So I don't understand why people wait. And plus, if you wait and then if you didn't put on your calendar and you missed the deadline for the registration period, you are SOL, folks. You cannot apply for it again. So yeah, that would be devastating, I think. And I think if you're possibly eligible for TPS, or I mean, if you are eligible for TPS, you might have the possibility to adjust status, meaning you don't have to leave. So maybe let's say you have a child in the U.S., becomes a U.S. citizen, and then you did travel in and out with advanced parole. Then at the time of this live show, you're eligible to adjustment of status to file that here in the United States. Of course, the common one is if you're married to a U.S. citizen. But either way, whether it's through your own child that becomes 21 or a U.S. citizen spouse, if you have TPS and you travel, you wouldn't have to leave. Of course, this is the law as of today. So again, don't wait on it. If you're eligible for TPS, just put it in your calendar. Again, you don't have to hire a lawyer, but that's why I'm here on a live show. They share these like common red flags, so you don't have this problem in the future. Okay, we really hate to receive calls and then someone tells us, "Oh, I missed the registration date." Yeah, I talk about this like literally almost every day, so no one misses it. I just feel bad for y'all in that situation. Anyway, if you enjoy tips like this, I greatly appreciate it. If you don't mind smashing my like button, the hearts on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, I greatly appreciate it. I think that's all the questions for now. Thanks for tuning in. And today is Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow. I might only be on Instagram tomorrow because I'll be on the road unless I can do the live show earlier. So we'll see. Anyways, thank you so much. If you have any questions, reach out to us with our CARES team. You'll see our number down below in the description box. And let's see what else I can share with you. And if you got any value from our live shows or with today or in the past, if you don't mind, go to reviewteamlaw.com and appreciate your feedback, your experience. All right, folks, thank you so much, and y'all have a wonderful day. Take care.